More than half of all beneficiaries now work and income money, and the debts have increased in every region over the last year. For example, Auckland's 51,000 beneficiaries owe on average $2,800. That's up $150 on a year ago. Budgeting services, that's because the benefit just isn't enough for many to survive on, forcing them to rack up even larger loan debts to wins. Here's our reporter, Alex Ashton.
Samantha lives in Whangarei on a sole parent benefit, which supports her and her 7-year-old son. She gets $523 a week. Minus her rent, she has $233 left.
I pay my water, my power bill, I pay my phone bill, I pay for my car, my warrant, my regos and food. So there's not really a lot left after that.
Samantha's racked up a $2,000 debt to work and income for loans.
Bonds, car repairs, just the usual things that I honestly can't afford myself.
Samantha pays back work and income $36 a week. It comes out of her benefit, which is paid by work and income. She's among company. Figures released to Checkpoint show 60% of beneficiaries now have a debt to wins. The Green MP, Jan Logie, says that's up from 49% when National came into power in 2008. She says the increase is because the benefit is no longer enough to survive on.
The stories I hear are genuinely distressing, of people struggling to pay for going to the doctor, struggling to pay that power bill, having to choose whether they go to their child's school concert or whether they buy bread that week.
In the last year alone, debt in every region has gone up. Auckland's 55,000 indebted beneficiaries owe, on average, $2,810. That's $150 more each than last year. Does it surprise you to hear that 60% of beneficiaries now have a debt to work and income?
No, it really doesn't.
Daryl Evans runs the Māngere budgeting service. He says the service is having to send more people back to work and income for loans because the benefit hasn't kept up with the cost of living. For example, he says poor people used to live in state houses and pay 25% of their income for it.
Sadly, in 2016, many of our families are paying up to 65% of their weekly income to the landlord. So, of course, that leaves very little left over. One, to put power on to keep the house warm, especially through winter. But two, more importantly, there's very little money to put food on the table.
It's a vicious circle. People are paid a benefit, they run out and then they need to take a loan. But that loan is then repaid out of their benefit, so they end up with even less each week. So they borrow more.
The more debt you owe them, the less you have in your weekly benefit because it's being taken out in advance.
The total debt owed to work and income sits at nearly $1.3 billion. Most of it is for overpayments by work and income. That's followed by grants for things like car repairs, clothes and dentistry. And the smallest amount, 14%, is money owed for fraud. The Minister of Social Development, Anne Tolley, denies that more people borrowing from work and income shows the benefit isn't enough to survive on. But she acknowledges it's tough living on welfare.
It is really hard. It is not a huge amount of money, but that's why it's always been talked about as a hand up rather than a hand out. And that's why we work so hard to help people get into employment, because if you're on a benefit, it might go up CPI, but it's not like being in an employment ladder where, you get annual increases, etc.
And Tolly ending that report from our reporter Alex Ashton.